Looking to take your financial knowledge to the next level? You're in the right place. Welcome to Ask Ralph, offering accounting, technical, and financial advice. Whether you're looking to save taxes or improve your business, he's got you covered. Here's your host of Ask Ralph, Ralph Eastop Jr.
Hello and welcome back to the Ask Ralph Show. I want to talk today about something that I think is going to be an absolute disaster when tax time comes around. There's been a lot of tax changes, and unless you've been living under a rock, you know that to be the case. And one of the things that I have noticed in my practice is I feel like we're going to have a real problem when people go to file their returns in 2019 for 2018. And that is a lot of people who are generally getting large refunds, in my view, are not going to get refunds. Or they're going to get a smaller refund, or they may even owe. And the reason that's going to happen is that I really believe that the tax withholding tables were adjusted too much. And I really believe this to be the case because the IRS is promoting this a great deal. If you go to the IRS website, they talk about check your withholding. So they published something called the Withholding Calculator Frequently Asked Questions. And I want to use this as a guideline to talk about a few things today just to bring this to everybody's attention. And the first question they asked, should all employees check their withholding? And the answer to this is yes, because the tax rates changed. So when the tax rates changed, the IRS pushed out a new tax table. Now, what does that mean? So when you get your paycheck each week or every other week, however often you get paid, you see that you've got your gross pay, then you've got your federal withholding, your FICA or your Medicare, Social Security, your Medicare, and your state withholding. Well, one of the things that they've done is they've changed. Now, you won't see any changes in Social Security and Medicare. That's the same. But what they did was they changed the federal withholding. So let's say that, your average paycheck, let's say you gross $500 and you usually get $400, net paycheck. Okay. So, 20% of it being taken in tax. Well, now all of a sudden, after these tax table changes, you notice, I'm getting $420 now, but I haven't made any more money. And that's because what they did was they adjusted the tax tables. Now, why is that an issue? It's an issue because you want to make sure you're having enough withheld from your paycheck. But if they've changed the tax tables, and let's say that you're an average person, you get about $2,000 refund each year. Well, they're giving you that refund as you go now because they've increased the amount of your net pay, or they've decreased the amount of your withholding, which is increasing your net pay. So it's important that you check your withholding. And what I have seen in my practice is clients who have come in for a year-end tax checkup, and I would highly recommend that, by the way. If you've got the time to do it, you can call our office, go to askralph.com, schedule an appointment. We charge $150 for that consultation, but I will tell you, it may prevent a huge disaster come tax time. But anyway, people are coming in and I'm looking at their withholding and I'm seeing that the withholding tables have been too strong and they're not having enough withheld. Now, this is very true, and one of the things it talks about here are some employees more likely to need to change their withholding in 2018. And they answer this yes. For people with simpler tax situations, the 2018 withholding tables were designed to produce the correct amount of tax withholding, avoid under or over withholding a tax. That's people with very simple things. But if you've got something that's more complicated, now, here's what you're going to love. Here's the more complicated things. 2-income families. Well, that affects a lot of people. People who work 2 or more jobs. That affects a lot of people. People with children who claim credit, such as the child tax credit. Again, affecting a lot of people. People with older dependents, including children under age 17. Ding, 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 ding. People who itemized in 2017. Again, that can cause a change as well. People with high incomes and more complex tax returns. Again, no big shockaroo there. So these are basically, if you think about it, these are not that complex of situations, but they're things that the IRS is admitting already. Look, we think we're going to have a problem here. We need to do something here. So then they talk about when should that be checked. And frankly, it's really too late to make many changes this year. You've got a month's worth of paychecks, if you're listening to this when it originally played. But it's still time to make some adjustment, or at least prepare yourself for the fact that you may not be getting that refund. A lot of my clients, they'll say, Ralph, we use our refund for, we pay our property taxes with that. Or that's our vacation money. Or that's the money we use to pay for our kids' education. and they bank on that. So if they come in tax time, and I really think this is going to happen a lot, and we tried to warn our clients a great deal about this, but I think the people who have done their own taxes for years are going to find this out. They're going to go and they're going to grab like the TurboTax or something like that, and they're going to work on their tax return. They're going to get to the bottom line and go, wait a second, this doesn't make any sense. We always get $3,000 back, but now we're only getting $500 back. And then they go look at their withholding and say, oh, wow, look at this. My withholding went from, $2,500 in 2017 down to $1,200 in 2018. Well, yeah, that's a huge tax change. Yeah, and do you still get a refund? Yes, but it's not the refund you were expecting. Now, you got that money all along, so it's not like the IRS is ripping anybody off. It's just that you're not getting it when you expect to get it. So it's really important that you take a look at that. One of the things they talk about here, if someone always gets a refund, why should they check their withholding? Here's what the IRS says from their own words. Although it's anticipated the number of taxpayers receiving a refund in 2019 will still be about the same as in prior years, the tax law changes mean it's more important to check withholding this year. On the one hand, taking this step can help protect against having too little tax withheld and facing an unexpected tax bill or penalty at tax time. On the other hand, with the average refund topping $2,800, some people might prefer having less withheld up front and receiving more in their paychecks. I will be happy to see that the average refund number is the same in 2019 for the 2018 tax returns, but I bet it's not going to be. And that's why I think the IRS is publicizing this so much, because they know there are going to be people, calling and saying, or calling. I think they're going to call them. I think they're going to come to see people like myself. There's going to be people that are really upset because they've banked on this refund that they always get. Maybe they set their withholding at single 0 or single 2 or something like that, where they're withholding a ton of tax, but they still are having less withheld because of the new situations. So let's talk about what the penalties are, because there are penalties for underwithholding. The question they ask here is, what are the penalties for underwithholding? By law, an estimated tax penalty usually applies when a taxpayer pays too little of their total tax during the year. The penalty is calculated based on the interest rate charged by the IRS on unpaid tax. For most people, avoiding the penalty means ensuring that at least 90% of their total tax liability is paid during the year, either through income tax withholding or by making quarterly estimated tax payments. Now, of course, there are exceptions to this, or special rules apply to some groups of taxpayers, such as farmers, fishers, casualty and disaster victims, blah, blah, blah. There are exceptions to this, but the general rule is that if you owe tax at the end of the year and you don't fall into one of those exceptions, the IRS will actually charge you a penalty for not paying enough in tax. So that's another reason to take a look at this. And that way you don't have that big shockaroo come tax time. So definitely take a look at your withholding. Look at your pay stubs and say, it's getting ready to be the end of the year. Is my withholding about the same as what it was last year? Or am I in the hole, and am I going to owe taxes, or should I not expect the refund that I normally get? So I hope this was helpful, and take a look at your withholding before it's too late.
You've been listening to Ask Ralph, brought to you by Saggio Accounting Plus. Please subscribe to and rate our podcast on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts, and leave us a rating and review. Our podcast is produced by Carolyn Peters. Thank you for listening, and be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at Ask Ralph Media. You can also hear me each week on 1450 WILM and on 1410 WDOV in Delaware, and on the iHeartRadio app. Submit your questions or ideas for future shows by sending an email to AskRalph@AskRalph.com.
The information contained in this episode of Ask Ralph is based on data available as of the date of its release. Saggio Accounting Plus and Ask Ralph Media Inc. is under no obligation to update this content if changes occur. Applying this information to your specific situation requires careful consideration of all facts and circumstances, and any information provided is not to be considered as financial, tax, or legal advice. Please consult your tax advisor or attorney before acting on any material covered.